My name is Kekedo. I come from Kekedo in the Oro province. My parents are not actually from that area, but they were sent there after World War II to set up the government administration so that the Australian patrol officers and district officers could come in when it was all cleared. And so my father was tasked with going there. And that's how we happened to be there, and we've always lived there. And that's the only place we call home. And so Kekedo is where I come from. I have held many positions in government, but much of my youth was in the field. I was a field officer. But some of the places where I've been in government, from deputy head, I then was made an ombudsman. I enjoyed those years, but the reason why I never pursued it after my first contract was I used to come home and find my tires all flattened. I used to have horrible notes that said, if you stop doing this, I don't know how they knew we were doing investigations. You find your family killed, or any family member. And so I decided that I couldn't live with that. I just needed to get out. I just said no. I was still very young then, and I think there was other things. Though I learned so much as an ombudsman about integrity, about the rights of people. And there was never anywhere to teach you all those issues. You knew you had it in the Constitution. But as an ombudsman, I was forced to address those issues, understand truly what corruption was all about. And sadly, I see corruption so bad even in Papua New Guinea now. When I was growing up, we only saw corruption at the leadership post, right on top. Now it's right through the service, and I find it very difficult to take, and it saddens me. It saddens me enormously. My next position was Managing Director of Forestry. I was asked to go. I guess government then realized that I was not corruptible. I don't know, somewhere along the line. But they appointed me head of forestry. Forestry was going through a huge corruption problem, and offshore pricing of logs and round logs, and they needed a whole change, and to make forestry become a statutory authority and to change it to another system that at least may have checks and balances. I went to forestry, and they had the Burnett inquiry. I don't know whether any of you read the Burnett inquiry, but it was very stinging against logging companies in PNG. So I went there, and first of all, the first year, I changed the whole outlook of forestry. And it's nothing. I'm not boasting about it. I had some help from the World Bank at that time, but a lot of it I did it on my own. I made sure that people in the center at headquarters in Mosby drove small cars. I set the example by having a small car allocated to me. All our four-wheel drives and all that was sent out to the provinces so that our fellows could monitor the forests a bit better. And in that same year, I made sure that we had all new houses on budgets to all the forest sites so that our foresters would have good housing, so they didn't have to rely on the logging companies for housing, for cars, so that they were not put in a position of compromise. All that went out in 1 year. Tenders, everything was called. And last couple of months I've been out in the provinces, and I've met some of those men and women, and they said, since 20 years ago, nobody's come back to redo our cars, redo our buildings. And I just stood there and I said, well, I'm sorry, I've retired. When you do what we call change management, and forestry was change management, you don't have very many friends. I had to terminate lots of people. Change management was completely clearing up what was dead logs, or what was corrupt, or what was sick with corruption. You had to get rid of them. But I didn't dismiss people just like that. I charged them properly. They had rights to answer what the reasons I was dismissing them. But then you create enemies. So when the new minister came in, I was out of the door like you never saw it, because maybe some of his relatives perhaps were some of them that I may have terminated during that time. That was fine. I was ready for that. Anybody who does that kind of management, and I've advised government, you want change management in a government building, you bring a team to change it, let them get out. Because you don't have friends. Unless, even if people understand what you're doing. In a country like PNG, there's so much one-talk system, you just won't survive. So Mekere said, hey, I was looking for you, he says to me, this is the Prime Minister, I've got a department-led position for you. And I said, been there, done it, don't want to go back. He looked at me, but Semek, because like I said, those were colleagues I went to uni with. So he and I said, been there, done it, don't want to go back. And he said, oh, how about an overseas posting? I might consider that. Or give me somewhere like Fiji, or somewhere I don't have to change my clothing, I say to him. So I can just get my wardrobe and move on. But I said, you know what, I just said to him, you know what, I'm no diplomat. I said to him, and he started to laugh. He said, oh, you'll fall into line, don't worry. My young boy next to me went, PM, excuse me, PM, I'd like to go to London. I really didn't know why he was asking PM. I said, Semek, and I said, Joseph, you got nothing to do with it, and you're not allowed to talk to anybody about this. And Joseph says, PM says, okay, I'll call you all on Monday. And then he calls me away from my son, and he says, a widow with 3 children, you must make sure your children are happy where I'm going to send you. You know, it's going to be very difficult. Now, this is a very caring person to say that. It'll be very difficult away from home. And so I said, well, Fiji is okay, it's close to home. I said, Fiji would be easy because I don't have to change my wardrobe. Where else? Maybe Brisbane, perhaps, be a consul general. And he said, oh, but that's a demotion. I said, no, I don't mind. Those days of wanting to be top of the ladder is no longer my ambition, I say to him. He said, okay, I'll call you on Monday. But he said, talk to the 3 children. Unfortunately, the vote was London, Mom. Because my boys, I have 2 sons, they were such Man United fans. They wanted to go and see Beckham play soccer. It had nothing to do with me not wanting to go anywhere. And when Prime Minister rang Monday morning, rang my number, they were all on school holidays, so my oldest son answered the phone and he asked, who's that? And he said, it's Robert. Where would you like to go to? He said, PM London. Said, that's 2 against 2. Bring your sister in. Their sister was only had then left high school. She was attending Newcastle University doing architecture. They brought her to the phone, and she asked and said, "Look, I'll go anywhere that Mom's happy and the boys are happy, because I'm really not part of the group anymore. Now I'm older than the age of 18." And he said, "But where would you like to go?" I said, "Well, I'd like to go where my brothers want to go. If my brothers have said something to me, I'll just endorse wherever they want to go, because it would be easier for." Again, she didn't even talk with me. It would be easier for Mom to control the boys if she's where they like to go. So he told me to get to the phone. He told my daughter to bring me to the phone, and I go to the phone, and he says, "Jean, you are going to London." I said, How come, sir? This time I'm now beginning to be official. "How come, sir?" And he says, "Well, it's 3 against 1. "Oh," I said, "with due respect, PM, now not only do you control my life, my children control my life." And he laughed. And I said, "Okay, let's see whether the cabinet would like me there. If they don't, I'm okay, so I'm not going to be in a hurry to say that I've got the job." And he laughed and he put the phone down. "I will do my best, and if my best is not good enough, that's fine." And I still have that attitude, actually. Wherever I go, I will do my best, but if my best is not good enough, that's fine. I'm not going to blame anybody for it. There were difficulties sometimes in a very male-dominated field, but I think I had some very good mentors, and they were men. And I mentioned a few: Seburi Kidu, Philip Braga, Ilino Metarua, Se Ignatius Kilagi, Se Alken Torolo. Those guys were they were all trained through the Australian administration, the colonial rule that I was trained through. They were very good people. They knew hours of work. Unlike when we go to offices now, the boss is never in. They have so many excuses for the boss not to be there. And I am like always shattered with watching what's going on and thinking our days were not like that. And yet we didn't have as many cars on the road. Government provided cars. We'd have to try to catch the bus. Even a deputy secretary, I didn't even have a assigned government car. And that was the mentality I grew up with. So yes, I had some very good mentors, and they were men. I had some very good mentors, and they were ladies. And like I said, it was hard coming up after 3 very strong women in my family. But my mentors and women were outside my own family. And they were Dame Alice Wadega, of course Phyllis Clarkson, and village women. I used to walk to the villages, and I admired those women and their strength. Like when I was not allowed into, when I was told women were not going to be taken into agriculture, I wondered why the colonial rule had those policies that women were not allowed to go into agriculture, and that made me want to be stronger, because women are the people who grow the food in the gardens. Why did they deny the women so long of women in agriculture? If you're a woman and you want to get promoted, you have to work twice as hard as the men. Never mind where, not just Papua New Guinea, wherever in the world. Work twice as hard, because if you work at the same pace as they do, they will never look at you. If you work twice or 3 times harder than them, they know that you're something to be worried about, to take note of, because you will gain your respect, 1. 2, I never forget that your family made what you are. Never forget your family. And that has been very important all my life. Because at the end of the day, when your top positions are gone and your name is gone, your family is still there to return to. So never lose. And another very important tactic I had was have a network of very good, strong women that you could go and talk with, or men, and they'll never see it as a failure. Because there's some people that when you tell them, oh, I'm struggling with this or that, they'll write it down as a failure. So next time they assess you, they say, oh, she got that problem. So you have to work out your trusted friends with you. And those trusted friends and the network of those trusted friends are very important. You know that they will talk to you, it will go through that ear and out, and it's not written down in gold so that it's held against you. So you need a very good network of friends, whether it's your colleagues you graduated with, it's your colleagues at work. Be very careful, because colleagues at work are always in for your job as well. So make sure that they are good friends of yours, but watch your front and back. My strength has been my family and my God. My family, on my mother's side, came out here as slave missionary workers. And so in the Western world, you might think that's stupid, but that God has been very kind to us.